It now being 1:30 p.m., I hereby call the June 9th, 2025 meeting of the Plympton Board of Selectmen to order. This meeting is being recorded for public viewing by Area 58. The recording is not considered an official record of the board. The approved minutes of the meeting will serve as the official record of the proceedings. So the first part of our agenda is going to be a presentation of a certificate to Plympton Police Sergeant John Simon. And some of you know that I used to work with this gentleman, so I've known him for quite a while and I'm very proud of him and on his achievement. So we also have present today, State Representative Kathleen Lenatra is also here, and she will also be part of this presentation. So without further ado, I'm going to move over to the podium over here, and we will continue this certificate process. So actually, we don't have much of a PA system coming from here, but I'll use my talk to the back of the room voice. So on behalf of the citizens of the town of Plympton, we present this certificate to Sergeant John Simon of the Plympton Police Department in recognition of his dedicated service to our country as a recipient of the United States Army Bronze Star. Per the citation issued by the United States Army, for exceptionally meritorious service in support of Combined Joint Task Force Operation Inherent Resolve. Captain Simon's outstanding performance during operations in support of the coalition contributed to the overwhelming success of the command's mission. His actions are in keeping with the finest traditions of military service and reflect great credit upon himself, Combined Joint Task Force Operation Inherent Resolve, in the United States Army. From the 4th of March 2024 to 15th of November 2024. Our community extends its grateful congratulations and appreciation for your continued commitment to the safety of our town. Signed this 9th day of June 2025 from the Plympton Board of Selectmen in the town of Plympton.
So Sergeant, I'm honored to be here with you today. It's my honor, my privilege, to bring you a citation from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts be hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers sincerest congratulations to Sergeant John Simon in recognition of receiving the Bronze Star Medal for your exceptional meritorious service in support of Combined Joint Task Force Operation Inherent Resolve. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all of your endeavors. And it's given the 9th day of June 2025, signed by the Speaker of the House, Ronald Mariano, and your favorite state representative, Kathleen.
I guess I'll say a few words.
Please.
Yes. For those who don't know me, I'm John Simon, been with the Police Department since 2014. On the Army side, I joined the Army in 2009. I'm roughly 15 and a half years in. And my current assignment is I'm a heavy weapons commander for decoying on National Guard. I have 3 deployments. My last one is probably, hopefully, my last one for my wife. I have a nice wall period that the Army has given us. This is probably my last infantry assignment, and I know the police department's happy to get that, because I think they'll work a lot more. But this is a true honor. This Bronze Star would not mean nothing without the soldiers, obviously, that I went with, my leadership that came with me, and most importantly, everyone came home with us alive. So no one was injured. It was a very successful deployment. Obviously, everyone watched the news. We were in Iraq and Syria, a very scary place. But God was watching us. My wife, I would say she was a true champion as well, because she was home taking care of the household. And my parents, my mother-in-law was also taking care of the house. So like, when it comes to deployments, it's not only tough on the soldiers, but it's tough on the families as well. So I want to give them a round of applause too. And then of course, Chief is here. He's been 100% supportive of everything I do when it comes to training, missions I gotta do, deployments, and then anything additional, he's always there to take care of me as well. So give the chief a round of applause as well. So this is the true honor. It's my first Bronze Star. Like I said, hopefully I don't have to go again, and I don't want any other awards. The awards mean nothing to me, but it's soldiers, right? Soldiers always come first. Then on the police side, I'm a patrol supervisor, so my policemen underneath me come first as well. So that's the type of guy I am. I'm a team player, always be that way. In the Army, you always be part of who I am. It's not who I am now. Same with the Plympton Police Department. It'll be part of who I am, it's not who I am. So thank you again for everyone for coming here. This means a lot to me and a lot to my family, so thank you.
All right. Thank you, Sergeant. Do a picture right now?
Yeah,
while
do
we
you
have
want to do
everybody?
it now?
I think that makes sense. Picture? Yeah, a picture. Keep it up right the camera. I know.
Yeah. Do you want to go up on the thing? Why don't you guys?
Yeah, we can do that too.
I think we're going up. Just slide the chairs.
Good speech, guy.
Oh, thank you.
Well done.
I was not prepared for a speech. Like this.
There we go.
Dina, do you want to slide that chair? Just it's quick.
Sure.
Huh?
There we go.
Say cheese.
Cheese.
Very nice. And then do you want one just of you and the missus?
Sure.
No, we're fine.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
And with Kathy?
No, we'll be all right. You come in the middle?
No, you're in the middle.
Okay.
And do you guys want to?
Come on in, slide in.
Just look it down just a little bit. There we go.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Kathy, for everything.
John, I'll send all those to you.
Okay.
Back to work.
So well done.
No fun?
Yes.
Yeah, well, back to work. Once again, thank you, Sergeant Simon, for your service and your continued commitment to this town. It means a lot to all of us, especially in a small town and a small community. When we see somebody who steps up like you have in defense of our country, it's always good to recognize that. And we admire your sacrifice and your family's sacrifice in doing what you've done. So that's why we kind of created this day for you. So once again, thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing you around town, and thank you for your commitment to our safety. All right, thank you. All right, we're going to continue on with our Selectmen's meeting at this time. You folks are welcome to stay. It's thrilling.
Thank you again, everyone, for showing up. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So John Williamson will be here at 2. So I don't know if you want to like maybe skip around.
When we get the two appointments.
Okay. Perfect.
We don't have the actual form because that's the clerk's job. So it's
Right.
just a roll call. All right, our first matter of business to discuss today is the appointment of Timothy Johnson as a full-time patrolman from July 1st, 2025 until dissolved. The second appointment will be for Keelan Smith to the Town Properties Committee, effective today, June 9th, 2025, until dissolved. And we are going to have a Town Properties Committee update, but I've been notified that that will be taking place at around 2 o'clock, so we would have a 15 minutes in between. So we also have annual appointments of non-union, non-contract, and Board of Selectmen appointed town employees.
Yes.
You don't have a list of those, right?
Yeah, do you want to, do the vote for, Tim Johnson and Keelan now?
Yeah, we can do the
Okay.
vote, I think.
All right.
All right, so I propose a motion to appoint Timothy Johnson as a full-time patrolman effective July 1st, 2025, until dissolved, and to appoint Keelan Smith as a member of the Town Properties Committee effective June 9th, 2025, until dissolved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're gonna do the next ones as one big
Big
list.
list. right?
Yeah, I think that's just easier. And then we'll attach the list, like, to the minutes, and the list will go to the clerk's office. So I think on here I put them as two separate motions.
Yeah.
Yes, because one would be Board of Committee and the other one would be town employees. Okay, so I make a motion to appoint the non-union, non-contract, Board of Selectmen appointed town employees effective July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2025. The list of said employees to be filed with the town clerk's office and included as an attachment to the minutes of this meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I make a motion to reappoint the Board of Selectmen's appointed board and committee members effective July 1st, 2025, through the end of their respective terms. The list of said board and committee members, including term end dates, to be filed with the town clerk's office, and included as an attachment to the minutes of this meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
If you want to sign for those while we're waiting for
Sure.
John Williamson. On the town employees one, I think I may have referenced June 30th, 2025, but the letter to Tara says 2026.
Right. Yep. Well, I moved to the top row.
Yeah, it's big.
You get second.
Highness not in the place.
Yeah. Since Bee's not here, I guess you are the collector of those?
Yes.
I'll have Nate sign when he gets here. All right, so. Let's move on to the regional dispatch contract.
Since the three of us have to sign, should we wait
For the,
Nate
contract?
to be around?
The dispatch services?
Yeah.
Sure, you can if you want.
Or we can take a vote, he can,
He can sign because it's, what is the word, ministerial? It's a ministerial act,
Administrative,
Administrative.
administrative.
yeah.
is he joining us?
Yes, he'll be here
Between two and
probably,
2:30.
not for a bit.
Maybe we should just
wanna just go right to the
keep
R?
that clean, just wait
Okay.
until he's here.
And go to the execution of the contract for emergency, electrical aggregate contract. I believe that goes to you.
Yeah.
That explanation. All right.
So that one we can do if you want.
Okay, why don't we go to that?
All right, so electrical aggregation, just to say a little bit about that, that's a program that's been going on for many years, mandated by the state. Communities get together and collectively bid on electrical rates. We tend to get rates considerably better than N-Star offers, and definitely, in the vast majority of cases, better than the private companies offer. And what happens with that is we periodically, a recommendation is made by the aggregator as to the best rates that they found and the best terms. It's always a bit of a crapshoot. It's a little bit like pork belly futures on the Chicago stock market in trying to predict which way rates are going and what the best term is. We've been incredibly lucky over the years. We have really excellent bunch that does the aggregation and give us advice, and so they'll be letting us know tomorrow. It looks like this next contract that we'll sign will be for, I think it's 34 months. The rates should be 10 to 15, maybe 17% better than they are right now. The beauty of this program is people kind of automatically opted in, but at any point they can opt out. So it really is a win-win, nothing but savings along the way. And so this item is seeking authorization, as we've done in the past, for me to go ahead and execute that electrical aggregation contract tomorrow.
Okay, no further discussion on that. I have a motion to authorize Mark Russo to execute the next electrical aggregation contract and to continue serving as the Board of Selectmen's representative on this project.
Second.
And goes to a vote.
Aye.
Aye. All right. So, at this point, you do your updates, I suppose.
Okay.
Because you can't really do the appointee to the Plymouth County committees, so.
Okay.
So, at this point, we'll go to the town administrator's updates and correspondence.
Okay, so we've all been busy here with year-end closeout of grants and our general town funds. Everything's on track for that. We're also, we've commenced the process of gathering all of the pay rates for the next fiscal year, and we're getting all of that calculated and entered into our accounting system. There was some discussion about the appearance of the old townhouse since all the tree removal. I was looking to get some pricing on possibly fencing for that property. And then I think that we may need an appraisal of the property, just to be clear on like, or at least a survey to be clear of where the property line is before we go down that road. So I was hoping to get that authorization to move forward with at least obtaining the quotes on that. I don't suspect it's going to rise to the level of needing formal procurement process, but I'd like to begin that process, if that sounds like a worthwhile endeavor.
I would agree. Do we know if Mr. Hayes is going to be following up with any type of?
He's, he's out of town right now, but when he's back, I can broach that.
Just to maybe see where he was at as far as what the detritus that's left there.
Okay.
the Stumps and so forth.
Grinding
and see if there's
stumps and that sort of
See if that's going to
thing.
be part of that before we
I'm
advance
not
on
certain
anything
if it
else.
was part of the budget or not, but
Right.
we can find that out.
I'd be curious on that as far as, before we start doing any type of fencing or property line alignment and so forth. Because you'd have to clear that land and then smooth it out and everything else and see where that stands at that point.
Okay. So I'll look into that first, and then I'll work on obtaining some general pricing.
Yeah, totally in favor of improving the appearance over there. It doesn't look very good right now.
No rough.
Was that a raised hand?
Yes, it was. I was going to just ask a question. Why did the trees get taken down?
They were deemed to be diseased and a major safety risk. All of them that came down were either dead or partially dead, and they were at risk of harming not just the building, but also like potentially people utilizing the building or in the parking lot.
Thank you.
The town accountant and I have successfully reconciled the ARPA accounts, both county and local. We're also in the process of separating out the funds from the county so that we have everything that was provided to us for the Silver Lake HVAC projects. That'll be in a standalone account. And likewise, the amount for the public water supply project. It looks like after paying some of the more current invoices towards the public water supply project, we have approximately $147,000 left to spend on that project. And I have let Mr. Williamson from the Town Properties Committee know that general amount. That's that. We do have in correspondence a couple different letters. We have one here from town resident Art Moran. He was here, but he's not here any longer. So this letter was dated May 28th, 2025, addressed to the Plympton Board of Selectmen, to the town administrator, and to the fire chief. Greetings, this year's town meeting and annual election are over, and the residents have spoken on several subjects. There will be no new $14 million fire station. However, this does not mean that the fire department is not in dire need of additional space and proper accommodations for the members of the department. Every resident I have spoken with agrees that the fire department needs help with their present building. To accomplish this end, I suggest the Board of Selectmen form a committee made up of fire professionals and others with construction experience to explore solutions to the department's need and bring them to the Board of Selectmen and ultimately to the residents for their approval. This committee should be comprised of all new members, a fresh start with new ideas not tainted with anything from the past. This will be very important when bringing the proposal to the public. This committee should not be an agent of the Board of Selectmen, and no member of the Board of Selectmen should be a member of this committee. One selectman could be a liaison, similar to what we had on the Public Safety Building Committee that worked well. The structure of the committee should be comprised of the fire chief and others. 3 people I have spoken with are willing to serve on this committee, and they bring a wealth of knowledge to the table. They are Jim Mulcahy, retired Plympton Highway Surveyor and retired captain on the Plympton Fire Department. He built the town barn, transfer station, and was in construction prior to his service to the town of Plympton. Brad Cronin, Assistant Fire Chief in the town of Avon, Mass., who prior to that had retired as a captain of the Newport, Rhode Island Fire Department. Keith Buchanan, retired business owner, Sounder Systems, an electrician, and has bought and rehabbed many properties. Perhaps you might also approach John Walker, retired Plympton Fire Chief, to serve. We have a tremendous talent pool in this community, and we should make use of it for this project. I served on the Public Safety Building Committee, and the new police station came to fruition because the focus was on one thing and one thing only, a new police station. I believe this can also be done for the fire department. Sincerely, Art Moran. Then we have another letter, June 9th, 2025, from our fire chief, and this is in response to Art Moran's May 28th, 2025 letter. I am aware of the recent correspondence from Mr. Art Moran to the Board of Selectmen regarding the next steps for the fire station project. While I agree that a fresh perspective can be helpful, discarding over $1 million in taxpayer-funded work, including professional studies, needs assessments, and thousands of hours of volunteer and staff input, would be fiscally irresponsible. The plan presented to the town was the result of careful refinement. It incorporated the needs initially identified by Chief Silva and later reevaluated and confirmed by me. The original scope was significantly scaled down to strike a balance between cost, operational necessity, and long-term community benefit. At this point, there are very few further reductions that could be made without compromising the project's integrity or leading to higher costs down the road. I do not believe that bringing in former employees or outside agencies who are no longer connected to the day-to-day operations of the department will offer a more accurate assessment of current and future needs. However, I do support input from engaged and informed community members who are willing to review the work that has already been done. My primary concern is financial. Where will the funding come from to support a new planning process? It would be unfair and potentially unfeasible to ask taxpayers to fund another round of studies or designs without a clear path forward. If Mr. Moran believes there are more cost-effective solutions, perhaps the individuals he proposes could first spend 60 days conducting an independent review of the existing work completed by the Town Properties Committee, and then report back with specific, actionable, cost-saving recommendations. Finally, I must address the comparison made to the police station project. Mr. Moran praises its singular focus, yet that same approach resulted in a building that has already exceeded its capacity, lacks essential functionality, and includes design oversights such as an undersized sally port, a poorly planned driveway, and a septic system that, according to William Murray at the December 5th Town Properties meeting, should have been replaced during initial construction. This is not a model we should replicate. I respect Mr. Moran's urgency and his acknowledgement that our firefighters urgently need safe, modern facilities, but I believe it is unrealistic to expect any newly assembled group, regardless of their good intentions, to produce a better, more cost-effective plan than the one that has already been developed with years of professional input, community engagement, and fiscal consideration. Fire Chief Cheryl Duddy. And that's all I have.
Any discussion?
Not yet.
I see that Mr. Williamson has arrived, so we saved you for your time. So if you are ready, sir, if you would like to do a presentation for us from the Town Properties Committee,
Oh, I don't really have a presentation.
Or an update?
We have sort of the three items that we should talk about. Clearly, we need to talk about fire station. But then we also had a safety inspection of the fire station a couple weeks ago, which we have some action items that will be coming forth that we expect there that we should touch on. And then finally, we should also talk about the new wells and water treatment. And Dan Bellati joined us today in order to be able to do that. And why don't we start with that? Because I think that's probably the most straightforward. And we can kind of go from there. So Dan, did you want to just give an update as to where we are?
A little bit of laryngitis, so bear with me. The analyticals from the second well test are due literally any day. As soon as we get the analyticals in for the second well test, we're going to begin the design of the filtration system. Then the designer from the filtration system and William Murray that you just indicated in your previous report, the previous letter, will sit down and coordinate between the exterior work and the interior work. The filtration system originally designed to go inside this building. Once we get the analyticals, we get the design, we'll put out the actual work to bid. We already have Murray under contract. We have first under contract for the DEP work. The design work, we don't have under contract, but I'm just waiting for a proposal once we see how complicated the filtration system will be. So we were expecting to have work completed by the end of September, but it's probably going to be more like the end of October for physical construction. And hopefully we'll be in bidding sometime in early August. There's not a lot of work to be done.
And so one of the challenges here, of course, we had issues with two of the wells having partial collapse, which meant that we had to sort of restart that. And then the testing takes, what is it, up to 8 weeks?
No, it's 3 months for some of them.
Yeah. So, we did initial testing on the first well, but we need both to be able to fully design the system, since the system will be pulling from both wells as part of the process. So that's sort of where the delay is. But I think we're on track as long as we get it out to bid. And then I think the only question that's going to come up is whether we have enough funds in the ARPA funds to get us all the way through, which of course we won't know until someone tells us how much it's all going to cost. So that timing, we should know when we go up to bid. But we have it's a pretty decent project because we have to get everything up from down the hill and water back down the hill, of course, to the town barn. Police station's already hooked up, so we'll just be able to hook right back in from where we are here. But then we have to get over from here over to the existing fire station and the library. And as part of that work, we will remedy a few issues as we go, one of which is one of the open items from the fire station safety inspection, which is the water comes in today pretty much right in front of the electrical panel, which apparently is not a good thing if you don't mix a lot. So we will just, as part of the project, we will just map that to come in the back wall, appropriate distance, 3 feet or more from the big electrical panel. So while we're digging, it's not going to be a huge expense for that piece. Any questions on water?
What's the treatment system of the actual physical?
In the basement.
In this building?
Yeah, so there's a fair amount of space down there. You go into the basement room, there's a boiler room, and then there's a whole separate room attached that has some limited water treatment and pipes in there, and so the goal would be to leverage that space.
And it's central, so you can come in and out.
And it's central, and again, the police station's already hooked up there, so that was part of trying to save something where we can. And so for our work, we'll still have to take a look at it. I know that Bill Murray's plan is close to complete, but town properties will take a look at that to make sure that we have everything coming in the right spots. Because the initial draft that the prior engineer didn't understand where the water comes in buildings. So you can't bring the water into this building through the town clerk's office because it's a slab all the way to the old part of the building. So we got to get everything coming in the right places.
Mr. Williamson, what was the outcome on the inspection, as far as what was the overall?
So the inspection, as we understand it, Ross, please jump in if I missed anything. There were 3 items that they were going to cite us for, and then there may be some additional items which they will offer guidance on. So one of the items, of course, and perhaps the simplest one of them is the electrical panel. And that the electrical panel was put in where the water was there first. So the electrical panel got put in and probably shouldn't have been right in that spot. So we'll need to remedy that by changing the water. The second issue is with the heating system. The legacy hot air system that's in the building. We did add mini splits to the building, but those are really geared for air conditioning and not for deep cold days. And that system has the heating ducts in and or under the slab. So if water comes in the back of the building, and considering the building is pushed up against the hill, water that comes off the field goes downhill, comes to the back of the building, can come in, and of course it's going to go to the lowest point, and that is the heating ducts. So in order to remedy that, we likely will have to go up. Ross did take a peek in the attic. It's not a beautiful space, but maybe a little more beautiful than up here with all the wires. But, it's a very doable, process to be able to go and put some heating ducts up there and come in through the ceilings to the various rooms that would need that there. And then we would have to clean out and then seal up the existing duct system because you really can't salvage that.
Understood.
The third issue that was in the complaint and was looked at by the inspector was the floor drains in the apparatus bay and the fact that they aren't draining properly. So that's sort of one piece of the issue. The other issue that comes up when you start talking about those floor drains is that each of the floor drains connects to the drain that's in the bathroom that connects to the septic, which is a slight issue if we were to have a diesel spill or an oil spill in the apparatus bay, because it's draining down back behind the town barn into the leaching field. So I think that has the potential to be probably the more costly of the three items, either necessitating new drainage in a pipe tank. I was talking to Mr. Plata today, he said we could possibly also look at doing an oil water separator. But regardless of that, that's not we're not just slapping a filter on the pipes. There's going to be some engineering and some construction costs associated with it. And then I think over the couple of the other areas, they said they may offer some.
So those three items are violations that we will be cited for. The other ones that they were not sure whether they would be violations was the proximity of all the apparatus and kind of the idea of pinch points. The safety inspector noted during his inspection that they usually talk about pinch points in terms of machinery. But given that some of the bumpers of the vehicles overlap each other to try to get in, that there may be issues there. He said at minimum that they will issue a hazard alert letter for that, as well as the gear storage. Yet to be determined whether those will be upgraded to violations that will need to be rectified typically within 30 to 90 days.
And so part of the reason that we wanted to make sure we brought this up today was because we have to start thinking about things that we know are violations now, because it's too late to wait. We can expect a letter late June.
Probably the end of the month.
Yeah, because we do have a time frame. That said, you know, he did make it very clear to us that as long as we're working with them, that they will work to accommodate timeframes. For instance, the easiest of these items to fix, which is the water by the electrical panel, we clearly won't be fixing it until September, October, until we literally change the piping in there. But that's an ongoing project, and so if they know that the project is moving forward and that we have a date of completion, they will probably mark that as closed and then ask us to follow up and advise them that it's completed. But some of these other items are going to require some funding. And of course, we just finished town meeting, so that's sort of a challenge. And probably not something that we can say, well, we'll get you next summer. So it's something that we're going to have to focus on. I see a question now.
Well, what's that leave us with as far as options on funding? Sounds like a special town meeting.
Yeah, or a special town meeting, or a special town meeting. Yeah, I think we can reach that.
HVAC, we might be able to get that in under the procurement limit because it's just ducting and the space is relatively open and accessible.
But we're still 15.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be bumping up, once we
So-
fill in the ducts and everything, it's going to be bumping up against that level.
You know, if we were at a couple thousand, that might be maintenance, but I'm not sure 15 or 20,000 is a maintenance, you know, that fits under the maintenance budget. So, yeah. So those are just things that we have to start thinking about as we await the letter and see if anything else is on there as an actual finding. But he was pretty sure that those three items were
And we expect the letter at the end of this month.
correct.
And that's theoretically, that's when the clock starts ticking.
Correct. But again, I mean, I'm not trying to cause alarm, I'm just trying to set expectations. I think as long as we are proactive in working with them, I mean, you know, they work with municipalities, that's what they do. And so they know that the money isn't just sitting on a money tree out back, otherwise we'd be building a fire station. So, I mean, as long as we're clear and work with them and can come up with a plan, I just want us to start thinking about what that plan may be, so that we can articulate that within the next 30 days, so maybe by the end of July.
Do you think that there's anything that the Board of Health could be helpful with respect to the floor drains and things draining to the septic system? Like, is that their wheelhouse, or
I mean,
kind of where your worlds collide? Okay, plumbing inspector?
I mean, it's certainly not I don't think it's in our wheelhouse per se.
Okay.
I mean, we understand you can't have that, but beyond that, like, you know, you can't do it, how you then do it,
Right.
not, I think, something we would have the expertise that we would need. Help.
If I may, with respect to what's over at the fire station, station now with facilities, you know, water, gas, if there is any, and drainage from septic. When you go in there and renew this, you know, per the state of the guidelines that they need, will that include capacity for the new fire station, if and when it goes there? Or they upgrade to a newer, bigger facility for the fire department?
I can answer that.
Which goes where?
I understand your premise. So you're saying, can any of this work that's being done now to fix the situation be repurposed? No. The answer is likely no. All of the heating and duct work is gonna have to be coming out, because that would probably.
I meant the underground, the permanent stuff. You know, if there's any drainage, field work, septic, water supply, treatment system.
Could, the challenge is gonna be, what does the footprint of a revised station look like? Because part of the challenge is that the apparatus bays are not only shallow, they're narrow, so we would have to be moving those. So where you put the underground apparatus is really gonna be determined on, you know, if we had a plan for renovating the fire station, we could say, okay, we could put it there, but what, yeah, so we're kind of, I would say likely none of what we are going to have to do now could be legitimately repurposed. Could we get lucky? Maybe, but likely not.
Okay.
I mean, we're not gonna put water lines underground in a way that would impede future development.
Yeah, that would be
Right.
the thing.
But everything else, I think, is,
Power, you know.
well, we're not, I mean,
That all comes in from the back, which is
Yeah,
now
yeah.
deed restricted for.
And
Nothing you should think forward to and say, gee, let's
well, I
do
don't
this
think,
now.
I think that's a challenge now, even considering fitting a revised station in that
Just
space,
existing space.
because you cannot touch the ball fields now.
Okay.
Well, no, you can't touch them, you can't use them for any other purpose other than recreation. So we need an act of the legislature to be able to take that space off. Existing station is 4,500 square feet. You know, the apparatus bay for the design station to adequately accommodate the vehicles for the next 50 years is 8,000, or a little more. So I mean, you're double the building before you have a room for anyone to stay in. You know, so that, there's not much space there.
Yeah.
But again, in doing the water, you know, we haven't talked about it, but you know, whether it was part of the design, you need a spot that you could hook up to water. We should have built
Or
more.
septic discharge or something.
Well, so nothing's being done with the septic. Again, the issue would be to correct the issue. I mean, the septic upgrades were part of the fire station plan and project. That's gone, at least as of the town meeting vote. And so there's no existing plan to
Septic
replace.
upgrades.
No, what this would be is addressing the drains and any material that could go to the existing septic, either through a capture system
Right.
or a tight tank,
Mhm.
which is how the highway barn and the police station is set up.
All right, thank you.
If we go back to the water situation, you talked about filtration.
Yeah.
I assume it's iron and manganese. Is there other more things, more problems with that? Any bacterial problems?
I don't remember seeing anything other than iron and manganese. It looked typical of the area. The initial response I got from the engineer was he wasn't concerned about the results on the first well. So there's two separate wells. One well's 143 gallons a minute, one well's 9 gallons a minute. So we're waiting for the 9 gallons a minute to come back to see what the results are on that. We have to design for both. It's designed to run, operate each well 2 gallons a minute or 1 gallon a minute.
That lab work, I assume, is available to us to look at? Is that true?
Yeah, once we get the final submission, I'm gonna bind it all, give it to the Board of Health, and give it to the town administrators, for whatever, you know, it's a public document.
And we can load it up, include it with our minutes.
I mean, they tested for a lot of things, with X's and Q's and Z's and stuff.
John, on, when you had the inspection, did you get any sense from the inspector, like, say, for example, if the fire station had been approved on the ballot, would they have given us more leeway if they knew that we were in the process of constructing a new building?
Yes. In fact, he thought the building was approved for a new station. So he said this is going to be mostly merely a formality, pretty much what he said, and we said, well, no. We did approve it at town meeting, we did not approve it at the ballot, so there isn't a new station going in. And he says, oh, okay. So now we're down that path.
Would there be any appetite to package all of this information in a way that the residents can access it, understand it? And then if we're going to be talking about holding a special town meeting or something anyway, my understanding of the debt exclusion process is that you can go back again just for the ballot piece. And there was talk about us possibly needing a special election depending on board members and everything else. I'm wondering if giving all the information to the residents, doing another push for it, and then putting it to another ballot vote. And then if it fails at that point, then I think obviously we'd have to go back to the drawing board. But I just feel like it'd be a shame to waste all those resources that were invested in this current plans and specs set. I mean, that's gonna cost a fortune to go back and reinvent the wheel. And I'm wondering if in light of all of this, now we're essentially gonna have to put out a ton of money to put Band-Aids on a bunch of problems. And then that still doesn't take away the need of the new station. I'm wondering if it's worth, before we go down the whole road of revising and starting from scratch and scrapping all those resources that were put into these plans and specs. I think the fire chief's letter that I read earlier summed it up best. I mean,
Yeah. So, with regard to the actual cost of the station, I don't know that you can guarantee the cost of the station.
right,
Bids are only valid for 60 days.
right,
So we'd have to rebid the project, although we wouldn't have to redo the documents. We'd
Right.
change dates on it. We would have to rebid it. We went to town meeting.
with the,
bid in hand.
with a specific
With a
figure.
specific bid in hand, after, pre-qualifying all the contractors and all that. Would have to do that whole process again. That doesn't change the ballot question, but it might change the appropriation question.
Right, right.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You'd be doing it reverse.
So you may have to
You'd be
go and
doing
do
You'd
the,
be doing the exclusion first and then backfilling the exclusion with the appropriation.
right.
So my question to either Mr. Pilato or Mr. Williamson would be, if the intent, as has been mentioned a number of times at town properties, is to repurpose that building, how much of that construction, obviously some of the things that is fire-related wouldn't necessarily be related to going forward as a recreational facility or whatever you want to do with it, how many of these violations would you have to do no matter what if you're going to repurpose that building?
That's funny, I was just going to say that, so you got the question in before the answer.
Fair enough.
Yeah, you gotta fix the water
Mhm.
and the breaker panel, you just have to. And you have to fix the
You have to fix the
heating.
air.
The heating,
Right.
yeah. I think you would not need to fix the floor drain, which is likely gonna be the more costly item. Because if you're not keeping apparatus in there anymore, or maybe we take some precautions in the short term, as long as they know the new station is being built and we can get away with that. Then as long as you're not putting vehicles in there, then you don't have that risk, and you seal up the drains. So there's some savings, the whole thing is in the savings, because you really shouldn't have the stagnant water and the heating depths. And then I think that is, that is part of the challenge, is that we not only did we come to town meeting with a bid, we came to town meeting with a really good bid, and I fully understand that to a lot of residents, they don't understand, they don't have an appreciation for the cost. And so we've heard a lot from folks who spoke, and other people have told me, that, oh, well, we could do this just so much cheaper, or we could do this in 8,000 square feet. And some of those issues come to the point that, the equipment keeps getting bigger, and while we're planning for bigger equipment with this one, it's gonna keep getting bigger. Nothing seems to get smaller. And so you could be fined for 15 or 20 years, and then we're back at it doing it again at whatever cost per square foot it is then. Or the other part is that it's not just building a big building to stick vehicles in. You have to sprinkle it. Talk about $500,000 right there, just on that piece alone. And you've got all these other pieces and things that have to go into it that creates the cost. There's a significant amount of cost just to have all the equipment drive onto the property. And whether you're building the building for 10,000 square feet or 14,000 square feet, that cost doesn't change much. And so we looked at taking off, one of the 4 days. And I think that it was sort of a silly thing to do, because it would cost us so much more to put it on. And it's not 800 square feet times 2,000 square feet. Maybe you're at 100 per square foot. Because again, you're not taking off the end bay, you're taking off the middle bay. So you just bump over and down. So a garage door, which is 30,000, you get to save on that. A little bit of concrete, a little bit of building materials, not that much. And so it's tough. I mean, I think it would be difficult to go to town meeting without rebidding. And then they could come in $1 million up. Or they say, well, hey, we did this once before, we're not going to give you our best price because we don't know what you're going to do with it. And so, that's our challenge. And then if we're showing up, if we're 15, that's now going to be a harder hit. But it's a lot, I get that. If we did this when we did the police station, 8 or 9 million instead of 14. But we've got a lot of cost escalation over the last 6 years.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Williamson, also, is that not including a dedicated driveway for the fire station within that project? Because you said that.
It's including a...
access point, but not an actual.
There'll be a dedicated driveway from this back part up to the fire department, so you will not have any vehicles around where the fire trucks are out being, serviced or anything like that. And it includes septic field, and it includes a revision of this driveway to take down part of the wall, and drastically improve the sight lines, widen, straighten, and take out a little bit of the slope of the existing driveway. Those were all part of the project.
So it wouldn't be dedicated just to fire, it'll be also police as well.
It is public safety.
Right.
I mean, this whole vision of it was public on one side, public safety on the other, and trying to create the areas so that you don't have the sort of mixing that we have today.
Correct.
So I appreciate town administrators' consideration of an election and seeing if there's another shot at making this happen with the new information. I actually wonder if we have the energy, the man and woman power left to do that, or even the energy and the human resource power to fix the citations that are coming up. I mean, do we have enough enthusiasm and energy to get through this again?
Well, I think we've seen, we had a number of people at the town properties meeting the other week that seemed to express interest in wanting to help out. And I think it depends on what direction you want to set and which way we want to go. If we decided to go the route that we're talking about with, that was brought up, can we put up a website and take absolutely everything that we have produced and put it up there? I think we can certainly do that. Can we hold more sessions for people to get information? We can do that. I'm not sure that everyone will be, that they won't have more of the same folks showing up there. There was a lot of discussion, and I tend not to spend too much time with it or pay attention, but considering the time between town meeting and town elections, there's a lot of discussion on Facebook, of which nobody will show up to hear any of the meetings, read the minutes. Our minutes are very detailed, and a lot of that information. Can we get more information up? We certainly can. Can we provide more information to folks and try and get people to see why this is important? we certainly can. I mean, the work can be done. I just heard that Georgetown just passed a $6 million override, $2,000 per household, for the operating budget. Not even for something you can touch. But the vote seemed to me to be one of concern for people about their taxes, at least for those that came out to vote. Now, whether there are others in the community that supported this, but I'm sure it will be fine and stay at home, that will be the question. Or is it a tax question, or is it a what we need to do for the fire department question? I mean, me personally, I will tell you, I do not have the energy to go back to the drawing board and come up with some reduced plan. I believe we delivered the plan that was correct after years of looking at it. And I wish the number could be lower, and we were excited because it was lower than what we thought.
Yeah.
I mean, we were $2 million off of the estimator, and Dan, being the forever optimist, millions off of what he thought we could get.
We did good.
You know, and so I thought we were in the right direction, but I understand it's still a lot of money, and for folks that are on a fixed income, even, you know, depending on their value of their house, $200, $300, $400, $500 more a month, I mean, a year, is a lot. So, I mean, it sort of depends on the direction. Do you go back with exactly what's there? Do you go back with some revised plan? Do you go back to the drawing board and try and come up with a completely different plan?
Mr. Wallace?
I'd just like to say a few things. You know, Art Moran's letter addresses a number of things that are untrue. I was a firefighter in this town for over 30 years. I have over 40 years of construction experience. I have my Boston builder's license, my construction supervisor license. Ross has a ton of experience. John has a ton of experience. The committee worked very hard to come up with a proposal. We had multiple times when people could come in and voice their opinions, and all their opinions seemed to come out between town meeting and town election. And I think those people, if they would just come to our meetings, ask the questions, I think they'd have the answers and see the need for what we have. I've looked at, you know, the same as we all have, looked at making the building smaller. It just doesn't make sense. I think that what we put forward to the town was the best proposal that was out there. And I think it's unfortunate that this town doesn't support the fire department like they should. And I'm retired, I don't want my taxes to go up, but that's the beauty of living in this town. You know, you need to appreciate what we've got here. If we had tons of businesses here, we probably wouldn't be talking like this, but that's what it is, and that's what I like it. So I just hope that there is some way forward with this, with the same proposal that we have.
Mr. McPherson?
I haven't made a decision either way about whether or not we should go back out with it, but my concern would be, we had 30% of the town vote, which is a lot, but it's also a little.
Mhm.
And we've had, throughout this process, we've been to town meeting 3 times, and each time we've gone out and done sessions at the libraries, meetings here, and I just don't see the appetite for residents to come out and understand. And I think unless we have something drastically different happen with people's appetite for the information, I think we're gonna get a similar result. So I don't know personally whether I would do it or not.
Could you do more with social media? Like, I feel like a lot of people get their information that way now, like.
Sure, but I'm not doing it.
The challenge-
I don't have the, I don't have
challenge
the.
in social media is the anonymous responses.
Yeah.
And not even.
But if you had a dedicated website with all the information, and then you just keep linking people back to the website.
I think, could it help? Sure. But my experience, I'll be truthful, was there was a lot of good questions being put out there, not looking for answers.
Okay.
I think the other challenge is that the attention span is very short. And so people are not gonna necessarily go to a website to try to find
Right.
information. Even if we link it, it's pretty
Right.
hard to address that specific question in the moment. And that's what people are used to on social media, is I put out this thing and I get this response, right?
And there were a handful of folks that asked some really good questions and received answers, and were very grateful for said answers. But a lot of it was just throwing things back. And I don't know. Maybe I'm showing my age, but I just don't think that social media is where town government is supposed to be conducted. You know?
I'm gonna take the social out of it. I'm just gonna say we're in the 21st century. And one of the things that I've seen and have seen being up here for the last year, President Lincoln said it very well. You can please some of the people some of the time, but not all the people all the time. You're never gonna reach everybody, okay? So no matter how many meetings you have, you may have a smattering of people here and a smattering of people there. You know what I mean? You're not gonna, for lack of a better term, it's a shotgun approach, so you're gonna get a couple people on a Saturday morning, then you get a couple other people on this. What I did see, and I witnessed the same thing where you went back and forth with a few people, was exactly what you said. But what I saw the most on it was a communication. So people were engaging it. And I do agree with Mr. McPherson a little bit on that some people just kind of threw it out there or whatever. But on the other side of it, I think that we have to look at how things are actually done in modern society. I mean, people do that, and as Mr. McPherson said, it's a 15-minute thing. You don't look at those long things where people put a long, wordy thing. They're never going to read them. However, if you're vested in it, you will. Right now, with the town properties, if you didn't make it to the meeting, you didn't make it to the meeting. You can look at the minutes, but I think if those, say for instance, your meeting was actually, as this is being produced on YouTube effectively through Area 58, if your meetings were on that, somebody could, see that at 3 o'clock in the morning if they wanted to. I mean, I jokingly say to people, if they want to watch the Selectmen's meeting because they're having a hard time with insomnia, they can do that, because they can pick that anytime they want. It's not exactly thrilling stuff. However, the point being is at that person's leisure, they can look at that. I'm not saying that this is an absolute solution to it, but I will say that it is a way to kind of move forward versus kind of doing the same thing that we've always done as far as having the meetings without having that avenue. Because people working 2 and 3 jobs, it doesn't matter what time you do it. I mean, we're doing it, the Selectmen's meeting at 2. We used to do it at 5. Then it was 5:30. It probably has been 7. It's been different times over the years. I can guarantee you that not the entire town's gonna be here for that. Same thing when you start talking about a town meeting. Not everybody can make it, whether it be childcare or at the time of that, it's height of sports for kids and activities and everything else. So we have to kind of accept that. But I think if things were actually put out there a little bit more accessible to people, utilizing technology, trust me, when I have a problem with anything with my phone or anything else like that, I give it to the 19-year-old. Figure it out, okay? I am not Mr. Gadget here, okay? But I will say that as far as getting it out to people, I feel it's our duty to do so in the most ways possible. I agree with you with social media. It goes both ways. I mean, I was the PIO for the police department when we first started getting into social media, and we had some different issues that I had to go through the storm with. There are ways around that, which we don't need to discuss right now, but as far as not so much a code of conduct, but actually terms of use and so forth, we can kind of shut things down. Does it have to be social media? No. Does it have to be an actual physical website? No. But could the actual meetings that you guys have be on YouTube? And be more accessible to people so they understand. Because like I said, I watched it play out on the Facebook site, and what I saw was the same thing as I saw with yours, Mr. Williamson. I saw your responses, and I saw people asking very good questions. And I saw the same thing play out over like 2 or 3 days. It's kind of coming late to the party, and I understand your frustration with that. But I'm about solutions, not problems. I would rather have some kind of an idea going forward where, how do we do this better? It was actually posed to me when I first took this position that, people didn't understand town government. Well, what are we doing on this side that are actually getting out what the boards do? What does TPC do? What does this one do? And have people speak up and let people understand what it is. And I'm actually very encouraged because there have been a bunch of people, like you said, that are showing up to these meetings now, and now they're getting involved. Granted, it might be an 11th hour, which I will not fight you on, but they are. So we need to encourage that. We need to have people have more avenues to be able to express themselves and more avenues to access this information than simply just the notes. I think it's very vital that we do this. You know, I work side by side with the Red Side for 20 years, and I've shimmied across the front of that building. I mean, it's just, and I'm by no means a portly gentleman, so it's definitely tough in there, okay? And I have the utmost respect for the Plympton Fire Department and what they do and their working conditions right now. So as far as this goes, I think one of the steps is definitely going to have to be, you know, more access to people in different avenues. So,
Dana,
Mrs. Beckwith?
why not put out a brochure in the mail that will get to every house in town, whether they're old or young, whether they got a computer or not? A really good detail one, maybe the floor plan, maybe a little bit more breakdown of the prices, and a list of what we're getting charged because we're not up to date.
I'm gonna bow to my vice chair, and I am very fiscally responsible. I'm very fiscally responsible, and when I look to things like that, I would think that we would be talking about mailing, talking about printing, and if we're talking about costs right now, that would be my concern. My thing would be is that YouTube, we're already paying through Area 58 to have things filmed. We're already having people come in and do these meetings and so forth. We have a PA system that now works inside this building, in this room. So if we utilize that as an asset, okay, and have people have access to it, because I'm telling you right now, I mean, I'm not throwing down your idea, Mrs. Beckwith. I mean, it's absolutely valid. I'm just more concerned about money that we need to earmark towards fixing things, you know, regardless which way you go. But I mean, one of the advantages of that is everybody's walking around with these things, you know, they have those, you know. I mean, I won't get on the situation of what we do with the mail in Plympton, but the thing is when we start talking about this, adding another cost, I mean, I'm not saying I'll turn it to them as far as what they do, but I would want to add something to their budget. I think that YouTube and having these meetings out there, and they could even be quick little things too. I mean, there's different ways of dealing with this, you know, there doesn't have to be that. But the meeting definitely, I think, should be televised at least, or videoed, or whatever way you want to say it. See, I show my age by saying televised.
I understood it.
Mr. Bloomquist?
Yeah, another question. To present the best image to the public that we could, okay? What we really need is a dollar figure that it would take to take the Band-Aids, and that are really, it's disposable Band-Aids. If it's gonna cost $500,000 to rehab and make it not as good, or $2 million, or whatever it is, that number has to be presented to the town, because if you go back to the town and say, we'd like to get that 14 million again, well, we said no once before, we're gonna say no again. But if you say, it's gonna cost us $2 million just to Band-Aid fix this problem for the next year or two till we come back to you, then I think people would think about that differently. Because then they would say, well, why are we wasting $2 million when we really want the job done right?
Correct.
And again, I don't know if it was $2 million or 500,000, whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't think it's that.
Okay.
Well, I don't think it's $45, but I think I don't know what a tight tank and that work would go for, but, you know, it's probably bigger than, maybe it's 100,000, I don't know.
Oh, wouldn't you say we're talking about, you know, the large building too?
So
This Band-Aid approach would
So
be.
if you're gonna, we've looked at enlarging the building, and every time we turned around, it became, first of all, you can't enlarge it with the stuff in it. So now you're moving the stuff out to where, right? That's your first problem. If you're gonna, and the chief told that we looked at going out the back, we looked at putting something on the front, and we're already talking about, you know, he was getting quotes of $1 million, $1.5 million to try and do that sort of work, and you're still not solving any of the particular issues with storage and the equipment, meaning not the fire apparatus, gear and all that. I mean,
I think that's exactly.
the way that I view it, and we've talked about this in all of the meetings, is that before you start renovating, which I think is really a replacement, before you start renovating that building, you now are $2 million and change in a temporary station that you have to put somewhere, which we really don't have a place to put it. So you have to put that somewhere, and so you're negative $2 million to begin with, before you've done a thing. And when Reinhardt looked at that building, they built a whole new equipment bay And then, at least on the footprint of where the existing equipment bay is, put the rest of the quarters. We don't have room for that equipment bay anymore. Like, it physically won't fit. And even if you shave it down and make it 6,000 square feet, where are you gonna put 6,000 square feet to the right of the fire station? You can put it in a ball field.
I think it's spot on.
Can't do it. So, we hear a lot of people say, well, we want a price for renovation. And my general response, based on, and we've talked to our architects about it, I've talked to other architects, we have former residents in town who was on the Reinhardt committee, who's an architect and does public safety stuff, and everyone tells us that you're basically gonna, the cost is the new station plus $2 million. Because that's what you need to build the 50-year station. If we decide we don't want that, then great, we can go down that path. I have other things to do, but if other people want to do it, that's great. But I'm personally in 20 years going to be irritated when I have to go and spend money to redo it again.
Question, Mr. Williamson, on that temporary station, that'd be a rental too, correct? We get nothing out of that?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I just want to clarify that
And-
statement.
And you better hope we're on time.
Mhm.
Because otherwise, now you own it for 6 more months till they come and take it back.
Correct. I just wanted to clarify that statement so everybody
Yeah.
understands that.
I wonder if I can put Mr. Pilata on, or put this question, recognizing it's just a guess. You've seen what will be cited for. Any rough estimate of the cost?
I haven't a clue. I'd have to look at the citation. I mean, I'm not dodging the question, but I mean, you guys, you're all over the place here. We're talking about an existing condition problem. We're talking about a space problem. We're trying to fit, 5 pounds in a 2-pound bag over there. And the problem with that building is, it's not a group 4 building. So once you start attaching something to it, you gotta bring that building up to today's standards. A group 4 building is seismic, hurricane proof. You don't have any of that. So it's a totally different ballgame.
Even if we, go ahead.
Just relative to what you just said, is there a clock ticking right now on us to do this such that we gotta finish by a certain date?
I don't know.
What your-
Yeah, I don't know what the citation is.
Yeah, so what he said was, you generally have 30 days, but they understand that.
Start or finish?
Finish.
To finish, unless you provide them with evidence that you are working on it and what your time frame is. Now, he said they're gonna work with us, he made that abundantly clear. But for us to say, oh yeah, we'll get to it October of '26, that's not gonna be okay solution. Right, it's gonna be, what are you doing now? And it's like, well, we need to go to town meeting in October to get the funds to do it. They can't, the state isn't gonna make you come up with the funds, we don't have it, but we have to have a plan. When are we going to town meeting to get the money? Right, they wanna see that you're moving towards resolution of the issue, in order to get to that.
Mr. McPherson?
Just to kind of hopefully put the nail in the coffin on the renovation idea is Dan's right. To do a renovation over there, even if we just bolt something on, we gotta bring the whole building up to code. That includes all the pieces, structural, electrical, plumbing, every trade. Any contractor is gonna look at that and go, well, the most expensive thing in construction is the unknown. If they don't wanna be left holding the bag with the cost, so the best plan that they're gonna have, if we went with a renovation, is they're probably gonna knock it down to a slab. Because chances are, anything underground for supports and structure is not gonna be in the right place that they need it. So it's likely gonna be knocked down, and we're gonna build a brand new fire station right there, as opposed to a brand new fire station somewhere a little more appropriate. And it's just, that's.
Plus, you've still got the rental.
Yeah, so it's, that's the logic, and that's the reason that we really couldn't put a number on it, is because to go and get that number, we have to spend, I don't know, $300,000-$400,000, maybe more, for somebody to tell us, yeah, here's what it's gonna cost. And oh, by the way, you're probably gonna end up knocking it down, and that just didn't seem like a prudent use of town finances.
Yeah.
Correct.
I think there's two things I just wanted to note. One is, we've heard a lot about people saying, why do we need such a big station for such a small town? Well, I think the sort of funny piece of it is that you could need a smaller station for a bigger town, but we have 40 firefighters on, and so that's a certain amount of gear that you need. All that, if you have a department that's full-time, you're likely going to need less gear and all of that. But we also sort of look at, you know, you have redundancies. So we have 2 engines, we have 2 ambulances, and of course, those are the things that are actually making the money. And you have 2 brush trucks. And then, of course, we have a tanker because we don't have town water. If we had town water, we could do without a bay, right? You fit everything in 3 bays. But if you start to make it smaller, you start taking out redundancies. And then how does that affect your, perhaps how insurance companies look at our fire readiness and your insurance rates? So I think that's a challenge that people, I think, don't understand. The department's a pretty good size. And then, yes, this department and this building could be good for a town of 3,000, could be good for a town of 9,000. Because it's the number of firefighters, the number of apparatus in the building that's servicing the community. Now, the downside is in town, for us, is that in a town of 3,000, you're spreading that amongst 1,000 households, not 5,000 households. So the price tag per person, per household is smaller. And that's just a challenge that we have. You know, and down the road too, of course, the equipment. You know, we spent more money on that tanker because we had to bespoke build it, not just for some of the driveways in town, but so we could fit in the station. And that was money that we had to spend because of our space constraints.
And you have one apparatus, or the fire department has one apparatus that stays outside most of the time too, correct? And is stored in the building out on Center Street, so.
And they've been having they had a lot of challenges bringing it back online this spring because of the little vagrants with long tails that decided to make it a nice home for the winter, and also some damage that it has from the sun. So.
And the price tag for replacing that is going to be pretty big too.
Yeah, the last.
I know the
one-
chief mentioned it at town meeting, but I don't remember the exact figure, but it wasn't very
Well,
small.
the one we replaced the other brush truck with the new one that we got now, and that was a $320,000 truck, which we got an incredible grant on, and we paid $12,000 out of pocket for it. You know, that's amazing, but that doesn't mean that grant's going to be there next year.
Correct, it's not a guarantee.
And they use that truck to do sort of some more heavier lifting when they're going into really dense places, because another dent or scratch on that one is. So,
Understood.
Yeah, both of those trucks almost have different functions. The brush breaker 184, which is the truck that's parked outside, is a true breaker, which means it can go in the woods. It can actually has the ability to push trees over if there was limited access. Whereas 183, the newer truck, is considered a forestry piece, so that would never really go off-road. It's made for dirt roads and kind of some of the smaller retreat lots in town. It's great for the cranberry bogs and some of the solar projects, but they're very different, different pieces of apparatus. And so the $300,000 price point on 183, the newer truck, doesn't include putting the iron bars on it. I know Carver's currently has had their larger brush breakers refurbished because it's so expensive to purchase a vehicle with that much iron on it.
So more than 320.
Yeah.
My point being is having it outside is not the best of ideas.
No,
Probably 700, I would guess, for a truck that size with that one bars.
Right.
So do we have a sense of next steps?
no. Well, okay, so I think there's a couple of options, and I'm not sure that we're necessarily going to make the decision right here today. There perhaps needs to be some thought in it. One is, we have what we have, then we go take another bite of the apple, right? I think that's definitely one. Two is engage in a process to look to try and save costs, and then go back out again. I'm not particularly optimistic on that, because I think there's two things that you could take out of the station. I wouldn't recommend it. One is a bay, and two is the training room. And to take the training room out, you know, to me, that's a multi-purpose room and great for the town overall. And at some point, we'll have to do some renovations in here at some point. And to be able to have meeting space is always good. And so it's not just a fire department thing. I don't think that's going to significantly take the cost out. And it's entirely possible you take those out, you go back out to bid, and you come back with the same number. You know, that's sort of the challenge, if we're like, I mean, that's the challenge we have because we got such a good bid. 3 is you completely rethink it, and a group of people goes back at it and tries to rethink it, but that's going to cost money as well. And then 4 is we just take a break.
Stop ready? Would there be a fifth option? I'm sure once before somebody, and they said no, but if we regionalize among or between other towns, you know, about the town, can we do that, or is that way out of the question?
We
Now,
tried-
it's operating ambulance service out of
Yeah.
so
That ship already
We
sailed.
tried that with great enthusiasm, maybe 10 years ago. We were forewarned what a quagmire it is. We went ahead anyway. And we kind of got our hands slapped along the way. The likelihood of making,
They were happy to take all of our equipment, and then we would pay the cost. So it wasn't a good deal.
It wasn't gonna work?
No,
It was not a good deal.
No?
No.
Okay, that's off the table.
I mean, there are all these great ideas, and I can't say that we thought of all of them, but we sure thought of a lot of them. And we looked at a lot of these different things, and that's why that's also why we didn't, you gotta remember, we went to town meeting to get the money to go, you know, to do the initial feasibility study. And we waited 2 years to come back and ask to go to bid, because we were still thinking things through, we were still looking at different avenues. We were trying to make sure that we brought forward what we thought was the best plan for a 50-year building. The cost still sucks. I mean, nobody wants to spend that amount of money. But it is what it is. And it's unfortunately, I think, going to be more when we get to it. So, I mean, I'm open to other suggestions and solutions, sort of where to go, but that's sort of the buckets that are in my head. And I think it's, like, we talked a lot about this at Town Properties, and we did not leave there with this is the way we're going forward.
I don't think you're gonna find a cheaper station either. If you look at the bids that are going around the state right now, it's not there.
But we may not have that same price of opportunity.
No, I know.
When we go out to bid.
And if you build a lesser station, you will be touching it again before 50. You know?
And if we come up with, you know, they decide, if everybody decides that they need something different and we have to redesign it, it's going to be the cost of the new design. You're looking at probably 3 or 4 years down the road before there's a shovel in the ground over there to put a station in, because you've got to go through this whole process again.
I think the big selling point is just this, that we're being cited. I have a feeling we're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars to put a Band-Aid on when we have the best option before us. We've spent 10 years, more than 10 years, I think it's 12 years to get to here, and to go back 6 years is silly. I would hope that we could use the fact that we've been cited and we're going to have to spend a lot of money as a real selling point, that we got a good bid, we have a good plan, and we need to move forward.
And I think I would add to that, to Dan's point that he just made about some of the other buildings that have come out to bid recently. You know that, maybe some others in this room know that, but the general populace does not know that. So it gets back to the more information we can provide people. You know, John mentioned earlier the fact that the sprinkler system is a $500,000 price tag. And I don't know if you were ballparking that figure, if it was an actual number, but that's the type of thing that the average person does not know. I was surprised by that number, and I'm pretty reasonably astute on things. So I think if we can package some of those types of things, let's list this town, this.
You're also going to be replacing your septic field within 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, you know, if you have a list of 5 towns that have, you know, of a similar size or similar station, we can list facts out for people to look at. Maybe they won't look at them, I don't know. But they can't say we didn't give them the information. So you know, that would be another piece of information I think would be helpful to provide to people, as well as some of those specific things that we can't get away from. We have to put a sprinkler system in, but that's a big chunk of change. So I think the more people understand about that, it only improves our chances.
I mean, there's a reason the station cost what it did, because.
Yeah, I know.
There isn't a sprinkler system in it because of the size of it.
Right.
Because we don't hold, you know, we don't hold visitors overnight. And we also don't have a second level, even though our dear friend really wanted it, because that would be an elevator. And there's a cost for the elevator, and then there's an annual cost.
I mean, that was the lowest priced police station of that era,
Right.
by far. I think Titan was second at like 5.5.
Right.
Well,
Mr. Wallace?
You know, the other thing is that, you know, there's a lot of naysayers in this town, and there always has been. As of right now, we now only have 2 slots left on the committee because we've got a new member. Thank you. I would encourage the selectmen to seek out maybe some of these naysayers and get them on the committee with us so that we can have that mix of people that want to do this.
He expressed
Yeah.
interest.
You're going to volunteer, right?
Oh, no.
He shows up anyway. You're all set. Don't worry about him.
He was raising his hand, so right after you said that, so I don't know.
All those in favor?
Yeah. Mr. Bloomquist?
Another question, if you did come up with a dollar figure for the Band-Aid, and you went back to town meeting, that wouldn't be a 30-year loan, that'd be a 1-year bill, right? That's right.
Yes.
So therefore, you could say that our Band-Aid's gonna cost X number of dollars, it's gonna cost each of us X number of dollars for that 1 year. None of this talk, you have to get inside the head of the people who voted no, and say, I know many of them, I'm sure, are talking just plain dollars and cents.
I think that's a great idea, but in order to get a cost for a Band-Aid, you've got to spend money to get it.
You mentioned $100,000, a lot of money for Band-Aid to even get the price we had.
Yeah. You know, somebody could, like Dan could probably make a crapshoot out of it, but it wouldn't be, you know, to do a Band-Aid, you've got to have drawings and stuff. With
You know how big
one
the
and
cut
two.
is.
Stitches?
Yeah, so that's gonna cost money.
And that would hurt to spend not only the extra money for Band-Aid, but the $300,000 for paperwork, to figure out what Band-Aid's gonna cost.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
We gotta wait and see what the violations can be and what the letter says. Regroup.
All right, any other discussion?
One more question. I'm trying to remember the numbers. The day of the election, I know it was 30% back, remember Bill? Yeah, 30% people voted. But the numbers, if I remember correctly, weren't really close.
60-40.
60-40. So you got to convince a lot of people to go back to ask this dollar figure again.
Well, I think you have to get, I mean,
You have to switch 10%.
yeah, you have to switch or you have to get other people to come vote, right? Because I think some of the folks just don't want their taxes to go up. I mean, I did some budget numbers for the last 6 years, trying to look at the school budget and looking at overall. And we've had some pretty hefty tax increases over the last number of years because we had the room under the levy and things just kept getting more expensive. And so to some people, it felt like we already did. I think we already did a debt exclusion or an override, right? Because the taxes didn't go up 2.5%. And so, I understand that, I get that, and I think a lot of them, you're not going to change their minds. So I think maybe you can change some folks' minds, but probably the other piece is how you get other people to come vote. Because, John Trainer made a really good point in our last town properties meeting. He said, there were 70% of the people who either didn't know it was happening or chose not to come and vote no. I mean, they're like, well, if they need to do it, fine, I got other things to do on Saturday, right? And so there's 70% of the population in the town that's voting for it, just didn't feel that strongly about it to come up, which is an interesting way to look at that demographic.
I would say my experience was just in life, I would say you're cautiously optimistic to get a higher number, but I think the biggest thing is that you need to educate people more about what this project is. I think that's the biggest failing with it, and it pretty much played out in social media. And I think that was one of the biggest things with it. It also played out at town meeting, when people are coming up and asking questions and confronting this and confronting that. You did a lot of up and down in that meeting, where you had to correct that. So I think going forward, I think more availability of the information to people, let them understand what's going on, give them more avenues for it, as much as it may be a pain. But the ultimate goal, and I hate to call it this, so Chief, I'll apologize before that, but the elephant's still here. We need a fire station, so it's not a question of that, It's, the working conditions, obviously looking at the violations that are going forward, and that's just the beginning of it. But when people vote no in that respect, okay, great, so you missed it this time, but it's not fixing the problem. It's almost like shutting off a water valve on a toilet or something like that to fix it. You know what I mean? It doesn't fix the problem, it shuts the water off to it. So we didn't pay the money out, but we're still in that same boat. So I think that, like I said, a lot of it is due to, I'm not going to say stupidity because that's insulting, but I would say ignorance. People didn't know some of these things. So how do you fix it? We educate more. And you did do quite a few, I believe it was for 46 meetings, but if people can't make it to those, some of them were videotaped, I will give that. But I think that people need to know that they are. And like I said, since I've come up on this stage here, so to speak, that's some of the things I've been pushing for, is to have more of a presence that people can see that at any time they want, that they don't have time. We had 2 meetings, I believe it was last week, that happened at the exact same time. So does that mean a resident flips a coin and go, okay, well, I can go to this meeting or I can go to that meeting? Which one am I going to go to? Whereas if they were both actually videotaped, they could participate in one, and I don't think they should be at the same time anyway, but we're not that big of a town. But the thing is that if we have that opportunity to be able to get it out to people, because everything that we've discussed all during this day, I'd be hard-pressed for anybody to disagree with me, that a lot of it has to do with misinformation, disinformation, and just ignorance on what's going on. And like I said, I'm not trying to shoot down Mrs. Beckwith's deal on, mailers and stuff, but, cost-wise. But the other part of it, like I said, if this is coming up right on somebody's phone, they can do whatever they want to do. And it doesn't mean that you have to debate anything. If it's a meeting, you still can show up, and then you can be here, be heard and so forth. But I think for the people who can't show up to it, let them know those things. Because I don't think everybody knows exactly what's going on at the fire station. And Chief Duddy has been very good about opening it up to this, to the populace to come in there and, hey, check it out. Look at the ladder that goes through the back of the wall. Why don't we close the garage door and let's see if you can shimmy across? Those are the type of things that people should see. They hear them. It's a little different when you experience them. Like I said, I've worked with these guys. I know what it's like trying to go down in between the apparatus and so forth. So I think that mainly to move forward, obviously we have to work on the actionable things that are violations, and those things have to be done because no matter what, we're not tearing down the building, so it's going to have to be worked on. Obviously, in order to stay in compliance, you got to do it within 30 days and have some kind of a plan. But I think in the meantime, also, it's kind of looking at how this is presented to people. Because like I said, that elephant isn't marching out of the circus at this point. We need a new station. We need these firefighters to be safe. It is unfair for them to be in the situation they're in, and it's unsafe for them. So it's not going away. People can look at it and say, well, we voted it down. Great. So you are still in the same boat with the fire station and with the fire personnel. So
I think the other thing that we haven't talked about that I should just bring up is I think this pushes forward the issue of a new ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we would have, if we were building a new station, I think the department would have just said, we're just going to hold on and try and, wait till we get the new bill, right? Which makes complete sense. But depending on what we decide, we could be 2, 3, 4 years out from a new building, and that A2 is not going to last that long.
Right.
And when the new ambulance comes in, another vehicle is leaving the station. There is no room. So that's going to be another issue that's going to need to be figured out. What vehicle is leaving the station and where is it going? And then how does that affect your insurance rates as well?
correct.
So I think that's.
Mr. Bloomquist?
Rockland's in a similar boat. They remember correctly, but you may know this well, but they passed at their town meeting and it failed at their election. I think the exact same scenario we had.
I thought it was opposite.
Yeah, initially I thought it was too, but then recently I looked at their numbers at their election, and it appeared to be, either way, they passed the one, didn't pass the other. And I believe they're gonna go for another election. I think I read that paper that they are gonna require one more time. I'm curious what they're doing to sell their product better. I'm curious if we can learn something from what they're doing, give them an idea of what. I think there would be, the numbers were closer than us. Still, I wonder if we could learn something from what they're doing to educate their voters.
Well, if there's no further discussion on this, I definitely appreciate everything that you folks have done, and I think that there's definitely things to be done, and I absolutely laud those who have been there, but also those who are now stepping up, as in Ms. Smith over here, but also others who have voiced a interest in going forward and being part of this as well. So I think that's really vital. One of the biggest things in this town is the volunteerism of people who spend their time, including us up here, on our own time to do this. So kudos to you guys for doing what you've done so far, but it definitely, like I said, this is not going away. This is something that needs to be addressed. We need to look at it, and I think more information to people will help out as far as what people have to understand. I know it's, not the best of answers, but I think that as we go forward, having those meetings videotaped for all of them, that people can be able to access them and understand it instead of saying that, well, if you didn't make it to the meeting, look at the minutes or do this and do that. I think it's more acceptable that they have a video of this, any type of proceeding. I would imagine anybody watching this today, that afterwards, whenever it's put out there, that they'll have a more of an educated opinion of what's going on. When I've attended your meetings and so forth, I've had a more educated opinion towards it. So, and obviously I have a little more intimate knowledge having worked with the red side, but again, it's all part of that. So I thank you very much for coming today, and I thank you for that, and you continue to work on this, and Mr. Pilata for showing up today. Appreciate that. Hope your throat's doing better. I'm getting a little dry mouth myself right now, so, All right. Next session. Okay. So I make a motion to approve and execute the emergency dispatch services contract between the town and the Regional Old Colony Communications Center for fiscal years 2026, 2027, and 2028.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And we are moving on to a motion to appoint and to have someone serve as the Board of Selectmen's representative to the Plymouth County Committees for fiscal year 2026.
I see where this is going.
I nominate Nathan Sides to that as representative, as the Board of Selectmen's representative to the Plymouth County Committees for fiscal year 2026.
Pick on the new guy, I guess.
Second.
Been there and done that. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And we're on to warrants paid.
$7,647.79.
Could you repeat that?
$7,647.79.
764779.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Russo. All right, and we don't have any minutes currently because we do not have Mrs. Martin's, right?
No,
We do
yeah.
have minutes, so we do.
She sent
Okay,
them?
so you did.
I don't know if I saw them.
First, 14th and 19th, all of May.
Okay. And Mr. Sides, have you had a chance to see those?
I have, yes.
Okay.
No corrections.
Any discussion?
I had just minuscule corrections on 5-1. The vote should be listed as 3-0 rather than just 3. I'll get that to Bree. And then on 5-19, I think there's an additional word, the entire blank, thank John Craner. I think that's the entire Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
And I'll get that to Bree as well.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, they look good to me.
Okay. Make a motion to approve the minutes as read and as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we've already had your updates, we've bounced around a lot, so
We have.
I think we're good at this point. We have our next regular open meeting, which will be held on July 7th at 2 p.m. And at this time, I make a motion to adjourn this Board of Selectmen's meeting.
Didn't you have a rave for tonight?
Actually, I didn't.
Well, can I do a rave?
You can do what you'd like, Mr. Russo.
Thank you. Well, if I really did what I'd like, well, it'd probably different than this, but I just want to mention the pleasure of doing the presentation of certificate to Sergeant John Simon. These are kind of difficult, challenging issues we deal with along the way, and I absolutely adored his speech on service and dedication to service, and it's a nice antidote sometimes to the challenges we face along the way. So much appreciate him and much appreciate the process in general.
All right.
I'll second your motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.